And once you have that, all you need left is to figure out where you're at. And this is where we have to be a little bit more honest with ourselves. Because when we get into this auto suggestion type mode of where things are just automatic in our brains and subconsciously we do stuff, we don't say what's actually there. And a good example of this is, have you ever gone to a friend's house and they're like, "Oh, Willie, how are you doing today?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing so good," when my life might be crap. I have found that it's not the single thing that we do that creates the path that gets us the result. It's not it's not to the today action, it's not the tomorrow action, but it's the consistent one that gets us there. So whatever we are consistent at is what we get, not the big opportunities that hold us. One of my favorite things to talk about is thoughts, and how thoughts, I'm not sure who said this, but thoughts lead to words. Words lead to action. Action leads to our habits, and our habits leads to who we are as a character. And then who we are as a character defines our destiny. So a single thought that we have can define our destiny. So watch our thoughts. Because if you think about it, ever since we were a little kid, we have been programmed in the way that we are right now, through different things that we hear, different things that we have said, different thoughts that we have had, the experiences, the wisdom, what we consider trauma, what we consider big wins. Everything is in our little minds of this tape recorder. I'm sure a lot of people on here will understand what a tape recorder is, but for those who don't, probably the younger generation, a tape recorder is a little device in which you had a cassette tape, which it was electronic, but not electronic like we have nowadays, to where you're able to hit the record button and it records all the sounds that is happening, to where then when you stop it and rewind it, I know, crazy for this generation, rewind it and hit play, that then it plays back everything it took in. Our minds are like a tape recorder, in which our entire lifespan that we have lived so far has recorded everything. And the people who we are standing here today, or sitting if you're watching it while sitting, has been a conglomerate. I don't know if that's the right word, but has been compiled. There we go. Willie 1, Dyslexic 0, compiled together in order to create and who we are as champions. And how do we break that? How do we break old habits? How do we break it to where if our thoughts lead to the words and the action and the habits, like how do we break it? And I have found that it's simply by thinking different thoughts. So if we're sitting there and thinking, I can't be successful, I can't read a book, I can't be financially free. These words, I can't, our brain takes that in and thinking that we don't want it, even though we believe that we do. And so as we consistently do that, we don't get the result. But if we change our thoughts that we have, then it changes it from I can't to I can. How can I start doing it? What are the steps that need to take? Now I can start taking those baby step actions, and then I'm starting to get the fruit from it. Then I'm starting to get the results. And now that I'm getting the results, oh my goodness, things are actually happening in my life. It's amazing as I talk to people about this thing, to where they're like, I don't know what's going on, Willie. I have no idea why I'm not achieving the results that I want. And my first thing I always ask them is, what do you think about when it comes to your goal? And they think of it as this massively challenged, big, hairy, audacious goal that is way out there, that they have no plan for, that they are wondering all the action steps to where they hit something that's called analysis paralysis, to where they get paralyzed by analyzing everything. And then because of all that, they don't take the steps forward. And no wonder if it's so big, so audacious, why people aren't taking steps forward. And so I want to teach each of you champions today a few things that have worked for me to go from where I was to where I am today, which is being on stages and being an award-winning speaker, which is going from someone who struggled with writing to multiple best-selling author, from going from someone who was just like living at Walmart in the produce section, working there, to now owning his own business, helping coaching dyslexics who struggle with reading and writing. Things that have worked for me. I want to share them with you. First thing is you got to know the direction that you're headed. If your thoughts are that important, then we need to know the direction we need to head so that we can start telling ourselves, instead of I can't have this, the I can's. And how do I do this? We got to figure out the direction, which first we figure out what's the goal. What is the finish line, the vision, the dream? What is the northern star that I am aiming towards? And once you have that, all you need left is to figure out where you're at. And this is where we have to be a little bit more honest with ourselves. Because when we get into this auto-suggestion type mode of where things are just automatic in our brains and subconsciously we do stuff, we don't say what's actually there. And a good example of this is, have you ever gone to a friend's house and they're like, oh, Willie, how are you doing today? And I'm like, oh, I'm doing so good, when my life might be crap. So we need to be a little bit more honest. So what does this look like? It looks like this, that you think about in your health. Do I have a six-pack? Do I have the energy to carry me throughout the day? Or do I have a keg and need to lose a little bit of weight? Maybe on the financial side, am I financially free? Am I have an abundance to where I can take the vacations that I want? Or am I barely living paycheck to paycheck? Socially, am I able to carry a conversation? Am I able to speak and listen to individuals? Or is it hard just to ask a single question to someone? And in these areas, adding mental, emotional, adding spiritual, all these different areas that we have in our lives, it's asking like where we're at right now. Because like on the Maps app on your phone, if we know where we're at and where we want to go, then it's able to give us the direction that we need to head. So that's the first thing, is figuring out the direction you need to head. The second thing is what I would say is reverse engineer the goal. And in simple terms, that just means whatever your goal is, work backwards to be able to figure out the milestones and the steps you need to take to then get to where you want to go. A lot of people think that just keeping the thoughts in their minds is going to create this magical motivation that's going to help you get to where you need to go and you know the exact steps. In my experience, that doesn't happen. But what works really well, and I think all the architects in the world can agree with me on this, when you have a blueprint set up, it is very hard to deviate from it because you know exactly where everything needs to go. And so taking that, your goal, and working backwards helps to create those milestones, which are pillars of steps you need to take, and the blueprint you need to go forward. So if your goal is to read 12 books in a year, I've broken this down myself because I've had to read more than 12 books in a year. If a self-help book is 300 pages, 300 divided by 30 days, average days in a month, you get 10 pages a day. So 10 pages a day, you'll read one self-help book in a month. Take that times by 12 months, you can read 12 books in a year by simply reading 10 pages a day. And now you think about it, you're just like, well, before it seemed almost impossible to read 12 books, but now if I just read 10 pages a day, which might take me 5 or 10 minutes, that's easy. And I'll be able to accomplish this big goal that I had. And it's simply by breaking it down. So that's the second thing, is reverse engineering it. And then the third thing I'd love to share with you that's worked probably the best for me, which is taking consistent action every single day. And I use a rule called the 2% rule, which is if your goal is 100%, then taking 2% action every single day to get to where you want to go. And these are already broken down in the steps in the blueprint. So reading 10 pages a day, that is your 2% action. I remember when I first started, I was just trying to read one book. And so that 2% for me was first writing down 1 through 12 on a note card, and then walking over to the bookshelf and picking a book. That was it. That was my simple action I had to take. And so I reached over and grabbed this little purple book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And now that I have it, what next? Well, what's the next 2%? Well, the next 2% was opening the book and reading chapter 1. And that's it. That's all I had to do that day. If I did that, the day was a success. Everything else that happened was a bonus. 2% action every single day to get to where you want to go. So the third one is 2% rule. So the first one is figure out the direction that you need to head. And you do that by knowing your goal and where you're exactly at, being honest with yourself. The second thing is to reverse engineer it, which you're creating the blueprint. And then the third thing is taking consistent action every day. For me, 2% action every day helped me to get there. And simply by doing that and breaking that down, now I knew that once I had the plan, once I was able to take the action, that now I can start working on the mindset, which was now that it's there, I can start saying, instead of saying, I can't achieve this because it's too out there. I can't take the first steps because I'm in this thing called analysis paralysis. I can't become successful. Now that I have it, I'm able to look at it and say, I can do this. And how? We already broke it down. So now it's, am I committed to being a better person? And if you're a champion, and anyone who's listening to this, if you are a champion, which I know that you are, that is always going to be a yes, that you are always willing to be a better version of yourself, because it's a consistent thing. We are humans, and humans have imperfections. I can't even start to tell you how many imperfections I have, but I know that the champion isn't defined by the imperfections they have. The champion is defined by the actions they do while having those in themselves. And so just like myself and just like the people here at Champion Circle, you are a champion. And all you got to do is start believing in yourself and start telling yourself that you can. Because just like Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. It's time for you to take the driving wheel of success, get in your car, turn on the engine, and start pushing the gas to move to where you want to go. I believe in you. I know that you can do it. And just go forward and be the champion in your life. And all you got to do is simply say, do I want it? And if the answer is yes, that's where you start.